Harvey was such a blessing to our family, and his death has left a tremendous hole in our hearts. Harvey's fingerprints are on my sliding glass door, and his drool stains still show on his crib sheets. Those are the little things that I'm not ready to wash away.
This is the family of a little boy who lost his life at daycare. And police say it was no accident.
10 and 1013 in service 1007. Savage Duty Crew, this is your page for a high priority medical at Rocking Horse Ranch, 14859 Louisiana Avenue South, for a 10-month-old baby that's not conscious and not breathing. Time of page is 1011.
And now a daycare employee is in jail accused of the boy's murder.
Her behavior and actions at the scene immediately raised suspicion.
The reasoning police say this daycare worker allegedly took this young boy's life, and why they say this was also not the first time that she tried to hurt a child in her care. We're on the case presented by Law&Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. It is very important in this story that you remember a name. And the name that I want you to remember today is Harvey Mucklebust. He was just 11 months old, and he was just shy of his first birthday when he died. And that is when police in Minnesota say he was allegedly murdered. Now, here's Harvey's picture. Harvey lived in Savage, Minnesota, which is a town that is south of Minneapolis. Harvey went to daycare at a place called Rocking Horse Ranch, and you can see a picture of it here on Google Maps. It is currently closed, and I'll explain why in just a moment. Now, on its website, this daycare claims that it's a licensed neighborhood child care center that is nationally accredited. It has a 4-star rating on Parent Aware, which is a company that rates daycares, so parents know that certain places are ones that they can trust when looking for a spot to have their kids go to every day. And when it comes to staffing at this daycare, well, according to them, the teachers have an average tenure of 15 years and, quote, all members of our staff meet or exceed job qualification requirements as set by the Minnesota Department of Human Services. Now, you can see why a parent looking at that would trust a place like this and trust the people that it employs. Now I want to talk about what happened on September 22nd around 10 o'clock in the morning, according to police in Savage, Minnesota.
10 and 1013 in service 1007. Savage Duty Crew, this is your page for a high priority medical at Rocking Horse Ranch, 14859 Louisiana Avenue South, for a 10-month-old baby that's not conscious and not breathing. Time of page is 1011.
So that's the call that went out to emergency responders when police say a little boy named Harvey wasn't breathing. Police say they tried to save Harvey, but a little more than an hour after they responded to this daycare and transported that 11-month-old to the hospital, Harvey passed away. He was just 7 days shy of his first birthday. Now, at the time, police were not sure how Harvey died, but they launched a very thorough investigation. The daycare was closed after Harvey had passed away. The other children who were at the daycare, they were safely returned to their parents, and police started to ask questions about how this could happen. They say they did dozens of interviews over the course of 3 months. And that investigation zeroed in on the teacher who called 911 the day that young Harvey was in trouble. And police say it turned out that in the days leading up to Harvey's death, there was a 4-month-old girl at this daycare who had a medical issue.
On Friday, September 19th in the afternoon, Savage Police Department responded to the Rocking Horse Ranch daycare after reports of a 4-month-old child who was briefly not breathing and was found with blood and foam under her nose and mouth. By the time officers arrived, the child was breathing again and was being transported to the hospital by the parents. At that time, this appeared to be a medical episode with no immediate foul play concerns raised. The child was later evaluated, released, and over the weekend was reported to be acting normally with no further issues observed whatsoever. On that following Monday, September 22nd, 2025, at approximately 8:30 p.m., that same child returned to the daycare healthy and well. A short time later, she was again found unresponsive, not breathing, with blood around her nose and mouth. The child's parents were notified, returned to the center, and transported her to the hospital. Our department was not dispatched for that second incident. Tragically, just 2 hours later, at about 10 a.m. that same morning, Thea Russell called 911 to report an 11-month-old child, Harvey Mucklebust, was not breathing. Police, fire, and EMS responded immediately and initiated life-saving efforts. Harvey Mucklebust was transported to the hospital where he, despite all those life-saving efforts, was pronounced deceased at approximately 11:34 a.m.
So police say at this daycare, the one that claimed to have teachers with experience and teachers who parents could trust, there was one teacher in these incidents that was a common denominator. And that is the woman that you see here. Her name is Thea Russell, and she is 18 years old. She is an employee who actually had just started at this daycare a couple of weeks before Harvey's death.
A clear pattern emerged. Thea Russell was a common denominator in each of these incidents. She had last contact with each of the affected children immediately prior to these events. Notably, she had only been employed with the daycare for 3 weeks at that time. Her behavior and actions at the scene immediately raised suspicion, drawing investigative focus to her as the primary person of interest.
So initially, Russell told police that Harvey was constipated and that Harvey's parents gave the boy a sleep aid called melatonin on the day that he was found unresponsive. This is according to KTSP in Minneapolis. And then I'll tell you what police say really happened. It's sick to think that this woman tried to pin anything on the parents or melatonin or something that the parents might have given Harvey on the day that he allegedly died. In the weeks that followed Harvey's death, police say they found out that there were some major issues in this daycare employee's past. Now, here's what they said at this news conference. We had the video per Fox 9 in Minneapolis. The local television stations were there. You had the district attorney, you had local officials, you had members of Harvey's family, who you will hear from in just a moment. And then you have police laying out what their investigation found. And they say in that investigation, they learned in talking to former employers of Thea Russell's family, talking to people who just knew Thea Russell, this is what they found.
This revealed a documented history of attention-seeking behavior, including her making multiple 911 calls reporting nonsensical incidents and simply hanging up. Also learned were past incidents involving starting fires at a church camp and erratic behavior toward other children.
So according to police, Thea Russell, this 18-year-old daycare employee, she allegedly has had a history of some pretty concerning behavior. And the term attention-seeking, that is very important and incredibly concerning when you talk about what happened to Harvey.
Based on the totality of the evidence in this 3 months investigation, we had probable cause to believe Thea Russell intentionally suffocated these children on 3 occasions to seek attention, and that third incident tragically resulted in the death of Harvey Mucklebust. During questioning, Thea confessed to intentionally suffocating the 2 children in an attention-seeking act.
This, according to the police, is not just a theory. They arrested Thea Russell, and this is what she allegedly said.
During the questioning, Thea confessed to intentionally suffocating the 2 children in an attention-seeking act. She provided detailed descriptions of how she carried out the attempts against the life of the first victim on 2 separate occasions, and she confessed to the murder of Harvey Mucklebust.
Now, we are hoping to get the video eventually, body cam video of Thea Russell when she was arrested, as well as any sort of video we can get from police of how the questioning went down, the interrogation of Thea Russell during this investigation. We were told by the local police at this point, because this is a open investigation still, no one has been convicted in connection to these crimes, and Thea Russell is just accused of these crimes, that we're not able to get the body cam video at this time, but we are hoping to eventually get it. There are also the questions about not just how she was hired by this daycare, but there are the questions about how she was able to be the one looking after children who were some of the youngest at this daycare. You have Harvey, who was 11 months old. He wasn't even 1 year old. And then the other girl who police were talking about, they say she was 4 months old. So we're talking about kids who aren't even toddlers yet. They're still babies. And they're the ones who often require more attention and require that specialized care. At the news conference announcing Harvey's arrest, we did see his mom and dad. You just can't imagine what they are dealing with right now. They were there standing with police, standing strong. We saw Harvey's mom with a picture of her son on her shirt. And in what was just a heartbreaking and emotional part of this story, we heard from Harvey's family, and his grandmother was the one to speak on behalf of the family of Harvey Mucklebust. And this is what she said.
My name is Julie Mucklebust, Harvey's Nana. I am providing this statement on behalf of Harvey's dad and mom, Hunter and Catherine, his brother, and our entire family. First, we'd like to express our gratitude to the Savage Police Department, and specifically Detective Andrew Dames and his investigative team for their tireless efforts to seek the truth in Harvey's death. We appreciate the time, care, and compassion you have given our family. We would also like to thank the Scott County Attorney's Office, the Hennepin County Medical Examiner, the Minnesota BCA, FBI, and all the other agencies that assisted to providing a thorough investigation. From the moment Harvey was born, he filled our world with sunshine. His passion for playing, infectious laugh, loving heart put a smile on everybody's face. Just 5 days shy of his first birthday, he was on the move, crawling, climbing up the stairs and sliding back down, and learning to say mama and dada. He loved the time playing with his big brother, who misses him deeply. He was affectionately known as our little Harv monster. Harvey was such a blessing to our family, and his death has left a tremendous hole in our hearts. Harvey's fingerprints are on my sliding glass door, and his drool stains still show on his crib sheets. Those are the little things that I'm not ready to wash away. We miss him more than anything in this world, but we try to remember with each ray of sunshine, each gentle breeze, and each star in the sky that he's always with us, shining down. Harvey, every day we ask ourselves why it had to be you. Every day we live with the pain of what happened to you. But we promise that every day we will say your name. Every day we will continue to fight for you. And in the end, we will make sure that justice has been served. Harvey, we love and miss you. Thank you.
Court records show that Russell is charged with second-degree murder, assault in the first degree, and assault in the third degree. She had a bond hearing on Friday, and a judge set her bond at $3.5 million. She will make her first court appearance on February 4th. So here's the official page as far as the daycare is concerned that shows the license for Rocking Horse Daycare. It has been suspended. It also says that suspension is under appeal. Joining us now to talk a little bit more about this incredibly sad case is Sherry Botwin, licensed clinical social worker, trauma expert, and the author of Thriving After Trauma. Thank you, as always, for taking the time to be with us, Sherry. This is just it's to not just the loss of a child here and a young boy, but also, what police say was behind it. And when you hear law enforcement say that Thea Russell did this for attention, I mean, as a clinical social worker, what stands out to you?
so many things. One of the things that I'm thinking when I think about she's 18 and she's saying she's doing this for attention, I'm thinking, what is her background? Where does this woman come from? And again, not to excuse or make excuses for her behavior, but to really try and understand she's still kind of a child in and of itself. She's 18, so there must be something going on, whether it's a psychological issue or some type of events that she experienced in her own childhood.
It's just, because I think too of, you hear of people being like narcissists or
Mhm.
pathological liars. When you have someone who would allegedly go to such dark lengths for attention, like what type of conditions are there out there?
There's a lot of conditions, and without having met her, we can't diagnose her. But I'm thinking, what kind of condition is this? Is this someone who has some type of bipolar disorder? Is she having hallucinations, delusions? What was going on and what is going on in the mind of this woman, and does she have a mental health condition? The other aspect that you we have to think about is it's not even just does she have a mental health condition, but is there some type of personality disorder, whether it coincides with the mental health issue or that in and of itself is the issue. In order to really better understand these type of cases, you need to get forensic experts in there to do thorough evaluating and diagnostic strategies to actually come to some type of conclusion, because she's not going to be able to tell you I have this or I think I have that. And right now there's so much we don't know. There's definitely something or some things going on with this woman that led her to commit such a horrible crime.
Yeah, and it wasn't just this incident with this
Right.
young boy Harvey. Apparently there was a young girl, 4 months old, at this daycare that had some medical issues, and police say that Thea Russell allegedly was the common denominator in all of it. But then in their investigation, they go on to realize that there were examples in the past of some nonsensical 911 calls, other just very, in some ways you could say bizarre behavior, concerning behavior that then also kind of wraps into how police say she went about this just horrifically, just this horrific case involving Harvey Mucklebust. When it comes to her defense, because this is someone, if you do this for attention, I mean, it's easy to look and say that this is a person who is not in their right mind, but how could
Mhm.
that factor into how this case goes forward if she is even diagnosed with some sort of mental health condition or personality disorder?
Right. She might be diagnosed with a whole bunch of things, but if she's saying that she's doing this for attention, and then the defense lawyers say, let's go after the insanity plea, you can't say that you're insane if you're able to identify what your thoughts are underneath the crime. Then you do know, or you she did know what she was doing, and she did know that what she was doing was wrong. So I feel like this doesn't sound like someone who's insane. It sounds like someone who's very unwell and has severe psychological problems. But from everything that I'm reading about the crime, the alleged crime, it sounds like she did know what she was doing. And I think to myself, how did this go undetected? How
Yeah.
did this woman, how did she get away with this? And now after a baby dies, now we're finding out.
Well, and the part for me too, and I'm interested to see what more comes out, because you have this daycare and like on their website, they're accredited, nationally recognized. Like it's all the things where like if you were a parent in this town looking for a daycare, it seems just based off their website that they have, very good people working there, and their license has been suspended. It appears that they're appealing that suspension, but you have this daycare employee.
Yeah.
She's 18 years old. She's only been there for 3 weeks, and police were, it seems like over the last couple of months in their investigation, it was pretty quick that they realized that there was all this other behavior in the past from
Yeah.
employers and family members telling them. And it's like, how did this daycare
Yeah.
not know that there was
Like
these concerning actions?
like how did the daycare not see this? And how, the question that I have is, how was she able to mask this part of herself? The thing that we have to remember with people who commit such horrible crimes, oftentimes they have multifaceted layers of their personality, right? So she was there for 3 weeks. she might have done a very good job in front of parents or in front of staff, not displaying these attributes that are so concerning. And the other thing is, when the daycare is hiring and having employees work with these very young infants, was there any type of training, supervision? She had only been there for 3 weeks. So why was she by herself with these infants? Didn't she have to go through any type of observation, training? These are some of the questions that are running through my mind as we look at the story.
Well, and the other thing too is like she wasn't just, this was a daycare that had some older kids there. She wasn't like out on the playground with kids that are, 5, 6 years old. It'd still be concerning if she's around anybody based on what she's accused, but like she was with the young ones. She was with
Yeah.
4-month-old, 11-month-old. These are the children that need the most care a lot of times at these daycares. So there's a lot of questions for the daycare. When you talk about a personality disorder, because I think of some of the mental health conditions that sometimes we see in these cases, something like schizophrenia. But then when you talk about a personality disorder, like perhaps Thea Russell has, we'll see if she's diagnosed with anything and what the deal is. But like, what is a personality disorder?
A personality disorder is not something that you get as you grow up. A personality disorder is something that evolves and develops over time. The challenge with this case is she's only 18, and you really can't diagnose someone under 18 with a personality disorder. So she's at that age where it's probably going to be hard for us to tell. But the types of personality disorders that I'm thinking about are things like borderline personality disorder, which often stems from some type of very early childhood trauma that someone may have experienced that left them feeling abandoned and stranded, and then all that rage and the inability to contain the anger. Some of what I'm trying to understand, she's working with infants, so I'm trying to understand, did something happen early in her childhood where she developed all this anger and rage, and somehow it's very sick to think about it like this, but in some way was she taking some of that anger or hurt, or if she has feelings of betrayal, out onto the infants that she was taking care of?
Yeah, it's because especially, I mean, you think of the two incidents that police believe that she's linked to before Harvey with this 4-month-old girl. Thankfully, she survived, as far as what police have said. Going back to the insanity defense, and we've talked about this before, and it's a very high bar for people to meet it. And
Yeah.
when we look at that bar, and even in this case, if she was like, "Oh, I'm going to get attention because I'm going to do it," I mean, it's pretty much the insanity defense can be lost very quickly. I mean, the second that she admits what she did and has any inclination that she was wrong, like for an attorney, whoever would take on this case, even if this goes to trial years from now, like that opportunity has been taken away.
She basically took that away from herself when she says, I did this for attention. And it sounds like all the other behaviors that we're finding out about now are very similar in nature. So can someone be severely mentally ill? Sure. And can you use that as part of the case? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean that she's insane. It means that you would take that into consideration when maybe you're thinking about the sentencing phase. But in terms of, did she know that what she was doing was right or wrong? And did she have consciousness about what she was doing? It sure sounds like it.
And I also read too that she had said initially that the boy was constipated, and the parents had given the boy melatonin because he was having trouble sleeping. And so it's like there's that initial lie that it appears that, according to police, that she told, and then she comes clean after it, which also would kind of show some of that as well. When it comes to personality disorders, and this is more of a general question, like maybe someone's a narcissist, maybe someone has borderline personality disorder. In this case, we'll see, again, what Thea Russell would be diagnosed with, if anything. But there's so many times where you don't know that this person has that personality disorder until it's one of these cases. It's like, after someone is accused of a terrible crime, it's like, oh my gosh, this person is a narcissist. There might be signs along the way, but then they really show themselves in those terrible moments. Like how is it that people with these type of conditions, even if they don't know they have it, are able to mask them? And like in this case, to get this daycare to believe that she was ready to handle these very young kids, she must have said something.
Yeah, see, this is where it gets very tricky because, for instance, with narcissistic personality disorder, oftentimes people with these traits are very charming. They can be very likable. One of the problems with having a personality disorder is I think people who have them at times, and this is not for everybody, but they are able to mask the parts of themselves that can't regulate, can't contain, don't know how to deal with their rage and their anger. So I can only imagine when they're interviewing her, you can't see somebody is narcissistic or somebody has borderline personality disorder. What I find is, even as a therapist, I could be working with someone for months before I even figure out, oh, so there's like some narcissistic tendencies here as well. Oftentimes, the traits of someone with a personality disorder, they come out in more intimate relationships. So if you think about someone working with babies, that's a very intimate experience, right? But no one was watching her. No one was able to see, at least from what we're hearing, no one could see how she was responding to babies when they were constipated or crying or giving her a hard time, for example. So this is where personality disorders can be very toxic. We will often won't know about this until months or years into knowing someone.
Yeah, and that's the other part too, is like it wasn't just that she was with the young children at this daycare. Like apparently she was alone. There
Right.
wasn't someone else apparently there. So she was given an incredible amount of trust by this daycare, it seems. Even if she's not able to plead insanity, and if law enforcement has as strong a case as it appears that they have against her, like how could her mental health, how could a defense use that in some way to try and mitigate what could go her way? Is there anything like a defense attorney would try to do, bringing in an expert, laying out her past? Like, is there any part of it in a case where someone seems to be facing a very tough challenge, especially
Mhm.
with what appears to be some kind of confession there? Like, what is her defense?
Yeah, so I've seen this in some cases because, again, everybody has the right to have a defense attorney, and everyone has the right to do what they can to get the least amount of consequences. But I feel like in this case, if you bring in if you bring in an expert who tries to lay out this woman's past and these are the reasons why she might have done this, I think that could backfire. I think that would make the jury even more angry because they may interpret that as, oh, so you're just trying to like let her off the hook in a way or lighten her sentence. I don't think it would work out well, but I think in this case, I imagine that that might be one of the strategies that her attorneys will use.
Yeah. I mean, and she's at 18 years old, and if she is found guilty, to just think of this young boy who lost his life just short of his first birthday. We'll see how this case plays out going forward. Sherry Botwin, it's always great to have you on Law and Crime. I know you are the author of Thriving After Trauma, really important book. What do you want people to know about the book? Of course, where they can get it, but what you hope someone takes away from reading it?
I appreciate you asking. You can get the book wherever you like to buy your books. I think when I think about the book and I tie it into this story, we as a society, there's so many of us that have been through experiences early in life that have left us feeling traumatized. One of the things that we need to do is we need to be able to confront these experiences and we need to be able to talk about them because when people can deal with or take ownership of something that happened to them, they're not gonna at 18 or 20 or 25 go out in the world and start doing such horrible things and then end up ruining their own lives. So really it's about understanding the impact of trauma and figuring out how you can learn to live with it and not continue to reenact it or take all that anger out and then act in ways that are going to end your life or someone else's.
Yeah, and I think too of just Harvey's parents. I know they were at the
Yeah.
news conference, and to even have the strength to stand there with police is just incredible. And then just some very very emotional words from his grandmother, speaking on behalf of the
Mm.
family. Again, we'll see how the criminal trial now plays out. That Thea Russell, 18 years old, has been arrested. Sherry Botwin, licensed clinical social worker, trauma expert. It's always great to have you on Law and Crime. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
And before we go, I want to show you the GoFundMe for Harvey. It reads that he was pure happiness and sunshine from the moment he was born. He could light up an entire room with his contagious smile, and he filled everyone's hearts with joy when he giggled. Now, the GoFundMe has raised more than $35,000 since it was launched in September. Again, this was a 3-month investigation and a lot of attention now on that young boy and, of course, on how the legal system will move forward with this case against Thea Russell. That will do it for On the Case, presented by Law and Crime. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify, and now you can find episodes of On the Case on Peacock. I'm Chris Stewart. See you next time.